What's good, guys? Your boy's back, and I'm here to bring you guys my Zoo Eldlich deck. This is literally one of my favorite decks all throughout last format when Virtual World and Drytron were a strong contender. And now that those decks aren't there and it's just Dragon Link and a bunch of other different types of decks, I think this deck is positioned very well. It's probably one of the top three decks, and most of the deck lists I keep seeing are just not doing this deck justice. They're putting in like 100 hand traps, and I don't think hand traps is the way to go this format. You don't need hand traps to beat Dragon Link or any of these other decks like Invoke. But let's get on with the list, and I'll explain why we're playing certain cards, because there's a lot of cards in here that I don't think people are playing. But to start, the only hand trap I recommend playing this format is just Ash Blossom. We're just not in a format where you're getting FTK. There's no calamities. There's no Drytron making like 5 negates. It's just Dragon Link, and Dragon Link is just 3 points, 3 to 4 points of interruption, and then they'll have like little follow up. It's not even like crazy follow up. So I think Ash is just fine. When you play against Dragon Link going second, yeah, maybe it's worth siding in a few more, but it's still not that good. I would still rather have board breaking cards. Then the two Golden Lord. This is mandatory. I think people have played around with the third. Maybe you could side the third because of the grindier matchup, especially in the mirrors, because in the mirror, the alternative win condition isn't to actually kill the opponent through life points. It's to kill them by making sure that their lords are banished. And then the zoo count. The zoo cards are very different from most of the lists I see. I think most of the lists are still playing Bunny Blast, Rat, Ram. Those cards actually just don't. Like, Rat's the only one I would argue kind of does something. But we're playing 3 Whiptail and 1 Thoroughblade with the Barrage 3 Tenki. There's a specific reason for that. First thing, 8 is the perfect number to draw 1 in your opening hand. And if you're going second, you have even a higher chance to draw 1. And you only ever want to realistically see 1. If you see 2, you want one of them to be Thoroughblade. But if it's multiple Whiptails, it's still playable. But the reason why I recommend playing this over any of these other ratios you guys see is because any combination of these zoo cards now gives you instant spot removal because of Whiptail and lets you contest Winda, which is going to be extremely popular. I would argue the Winda decks are probably the second strongest deck right now in the format. And if you normal summon a Zoo, they are always going to activate Schism and drop a Winda on you. If they do that and you have a Whiptail, you literally guarantee yourself to keep playing and play through the Winda. So I definitely think this is actually the correct ratio. I think Rat and Bunny Blast is cute because you could always add it back, but you just don't have room for it anymore. And because of the pot, like, you're always gonna see a zoo, and if you play more zoos, it's going to lead to the few ways you lose with this deck is seeing very dead hands with like multiple zoos or multiple golden lands or Eldritch cards without any real interruption. So I would highly recommend playing this ratio, and I've been having tons of success. I don't think I would go back to anything. Maybe I would consider throwing like a Rat and Bunny Blast for that one play where you can add a zoo back, but I really don't think it's worth it, specifically because it's already 8 zoo cards, and I think Whiptail is by far the strongest one right now. And it was not like that before. I never even, like in the previous format, I didn't even really play Whiptail because it was just so useless, and Bunny Blast would be able to interact with the spell from Virtual World, and Ram can interact with the trap from Virtual World and Punishment, but those cards are just not in the format. Punishment is kind of in the format, but nobody's going to let you overlay your Ram so like that you can negate the punishment. Like, it doesn't make sense to play these cards anymore. Their utility is just not that great from where the format is currently. And then after the 8 zoo cards, 3 Cosmic. Cosmic has to be mandatory now. I think I still see Zoolist not playing Cosmic. Cosmic is good all around. It beats it does something against almost every deck going first, and it hits high impact cards such as Meltdown, such as World Legacy Guard Dragon. And when you go second, it hits Schism. It hits the trap that bounces Tidying, and your deck doesn't lose to these the Savage Dragon or the Hot Red. It loses to Tidying and the Herald Bounds. And so I would really recommend playing Cosmic just to answer the bounds, and it just does something in every matchup. So I think this card's mandatory. Pot is also, I think, mandatory. I still don't know why people say like it's not good in this deck because you play zoo cards, but you're gonna get rid of 6 cards right off the bat, and if you see a certain card, if you can just get the certain Eldlich card you're missing, or if you see one of your hard trap cards, the game's almost over. So I highly recommend playing Pot, and after you activate it once, just if you draw it again, or if you have it in multiples, you could either get rid of it for your Lord or just hit it for 3. Because after the first 2 turns, you're just going to be playing Eldlich. That's how this deck should always function. Turn 1, you drop a Dryden. Dryden is most likely going to die. And if you're going second, you try your hardest to clear everything and drop a 6 material Zeus, and that's it. That's the only time your Zoo cards are doing anything. After that, you have to learn to grind with the Eldlich cards, and that's why if you see this list, there's a little bit high. It's a higher count on the Eldlich cards because I think that's what you should be focusing on. The Zoo cards are only meant for your opening turns, and then 3 Cursed Eldland and 2 Black Awakening. So let me explain Black Awakening because nobody's playing it. I think Black Awakening's broken, specifically when you play the counter trap Golden Land Forever, and when you have more elixirs than the opponent in the grindier matchups, you're always going to be able to keep going when they can only set just Scarlet, and then therefore when it comes back to your turn, you can get to 2 forms of interruption. You could get your Wakero or your Golden Land Forever or your Conquistador. It makes it easier. I highly recommend playing Black Awakening, or specifically because it helps suffice the Golden Land Forever, and Golden Land Forever is literally insane. And then the 3 Scarlet. This is standard 3 Conquistador. Conquistador is by far the best one right now, and I think it's always been the best one. Maybe last format when Drytron was a thing, people would play like 3 Wakero and 2 Conquistador, but now there's just like no argument about it. Conquistador is so good against Dragon Link. And then 2 Wakero, I think this card's terrible right now, but you just need 2 because you're always going to send 1 off of a Cursed Eldland. So you're gonna need 1 in deck if just in case if you need to interrupt, and it's good against the dinos. But the thing that to remember is Wakero, you don't need to play 3 of it. The matchups where you need to banish a card from the graveyard, you need to do that once, and the tempo of the game comes to you. So I really do think just playing for like just 1 of Wakero in your deck and the other one you can just always send it is fine. And then Golden Land Forever, people are sleeping on this card. That's why we're playing Black Awakening. That's why we're... I think this is one of the selling points of Eldlich. Like, this card is so crazy. This card's literally Crescendo. A little weaker than Crescendo, but it's so easy to set up. Way easier than Orcus ever set up their Crescendo. So I definitely would play it. And when you play this card, the thing to note is you should always play hard traps with it. Like, if you draw the next, like, 7 cards and set up Golden Land Forever, the game is actually just over. If you have a strike with Golden Land Forever, protecting the strike, or the summon limit, or the order... the game is over. It is so hard to play through these trap cards. Strike is so good right now. Summon Limit is literally an FTK. It's literally Winda, but it's a trap card. An Imperial Order, like, it also just FTKs most decks. And because you play the pot, you have so... It's not just like, oh, I only have 7 copies of these hard traps. I have way more copies now. The pot is going to hit something relevant. So I definitely think this is the way that most of these Eldlich Zoo decks should be headed. Play the counter trap. Play a little bit heavier on the Eldlich cards because they're just so good. Like, Black Awakening is good. Maybe you could go like 1 Black Awakening if you don't want to play 2, but like it just being able to set up this trap and always having a play, because Black Awakening is a play by itself. Like, me opening Black Awakening with like trap cards, if I go first, I'll probably win the game. So I think that's all I have to say about the main deck. I've been grinding this deck nonstop on DB rated, and it is so good. I really think people are missing out on some of these cards that you could be playing, like Black, Golden Land Forever, even the triple Whiptail. Those, like, it's not like this deck's revolutionary. This deck's been out for so long, and like people always try to tweak it here and there, and it tries to mold itself to the format. But right now, these cards, like the Black, Whiptail, Golden Land Forever, are the cards to look out for and try to test out. And then the side deck. I'll go through my side deck real quick, but as usual, like, the side deck's always going to change, and I don't even think my side deck's perfect. This is what I've been playing on DB. So the 3 Lancia, 3 Droll, 3 Nibiru, 2 Ogre, these are just hand traps to deal with, like, I don't even side Lancia anymore against Dragon Link. Like, I just don't have enough space. I think Droll's a little bit better against Dragon Link than Lancia's. Lancia's there for, like, Invoked and Dinos, and Droll, Nibiru, Ogre is supposed to hit the Dragon Link. But even then, like, I'm not, like, going overboard with the hand traps, and I don't think you have to go overboard with the hand traps. I think it's a mistake to go overboard with the hand traps because there's combinations of cards in this deck that if you draw going second into the Dragon Link field, you can just crack the whole field. All you have to focus on is get rid of the bounces. If you can get rid of Tidying and Spheres, you can win the game just by dropping a Zeus. And then for going first, you have 2 anti-spell, just because, like, I'm scared of Lightning Storm. Everybody's playing it right now. Reboot's cool against trap decks, and like if you reboot them and summon a Zeus, 6 material Zeus, blow up everything, it's really nice. And then Harpy's Feather Duster, it's always good to always have 1-ofs now because of the pot. That's why I chose to just main deck the order, because order just steals games. And then the extra deck's also fairly simple. Dryden, Hammer Kong, 2 Borbo, 2 Chakanai, 2 Tiger, Pallades, this is definitely a flex spot. I summon it sometimes. There's definitely other cards you could play. Like, there's other cards I've been testing. But right now, this is what I've been playing with. Vesperado. Vespernado's good. It helps you kill when you have like a heavy zoo hand or like your zoos actually stick. You just drop a Vesperado and it helps kill faster because sometimes it's a little difficult. It can get a little difficult to kill because like you'll only have like a zoo monster and a lord. So sometimes just dropping a 2500 monster for free is fine. And usually you'll be getting rid of. I'll show you guys what you get rid of from the pot, and usually this is one of them. And then the double Zeus. I think you have to play 2 Zeus, but I always do get rid of one when I pot. And then the 3 links I play. The Earth Charmer makes the mirror very easy. If they don't have this card and you have this card, the mirror is actually just free. Link Spider helps pivot the Eldlich cards into the Asa. I think most people know these. Like, these cards have been out for like forever now. And then Vampire Sucker. Like, I didn't play this before, but I definitely saw that like now that I was playing more Eldlich cards, like sometimes this just came up like where I would make Vampire Sucker and then like I could send my Black Awakening to the graveyard to like get another search. So that's about it. I'm not gonna say this is revolutionary, but there's definitely cool spice in here. The cool tech that I think is so good. I definitely think the way that most people play this deck is just incorrect. They're playing like 15 hand traps, and playing hand traps in this deck, I believe, is just so bad because you're a slow deck, you're a trap deck. When you give up a card and they just still have the monster on field, like you just impermanence something and they still have the monster, they still have their spheres that's gonna bounce and end your turn. It's just not the same. I would rather just have a hard trap to attempt to break the field, or just more good gas cards, like push cards. That's why I think in the future, I could even see myself taking out a few more of these hand traps and playing like Droplets, Dark Ruler. But for the moment being, I was not playing them, but that's definitely a consideration. But I hope you guys like this deck list. I will definitely be doing more videos come soon. Guys, let me know what you guys want to see. If you guys want to see me play on Dueling Book, because I've been playing non-stop, specifically this format, all my friends are like really back into the game right now. They're really enjoying this game. So let me know, subscribe, stay tuned for more, and your boy's back.